we'll get ourselves started. There's still people coming in the room, so that's great. But what we're going to say is a huge thank you, first and foremost, to our partners and our corporate partners. They're the guys who help facilitate and help this happen. So we've got ASIS, BMS, CAPS, EMAX, Integral Enterprise, Nationwide, and S&G Response as corporate partners, and our partners, the Green Part Specialists, IDASA, and the Innovation Group. So we have a busy schedule today, to say the least. Plenty going on. And what I want to do first and foremost is just normal practice of reading our disclaimer. So it's on the screen for those who can see it, but the views and opinions expressed during the following webinar are those of the individual contributors and do not necessarily reflect the official policy or position of the contributor's employer, organisation, committee, or other group or individual. Please respect all contributions, and we encourage you to join the conversation via the interactive functions available. So please do that, and that would be a great thing. We love to hear from people, and we love to see the interaction. So today's panelists, we've got Dean Lender, Head of Repair Sector Services at Thatcham Research. We've got Paul Llewellyn, Head of Motor Claims at Aegeus, and we've got Louise Woolacott, Managing Director of Fix Auto Mid Devon. So welcome everybody. And in the usual fashion, what we'll do is just have a little skim round before we go too far into the session. If I can just ask you to introduce yourselves, a little bit about yourself, the business, and kind of where you find things currently within the industry. So I'll come to you first, Louise, if I may.
Hello. Yes, I'm Louise Woolacott, and I'm very pleased that you've asked me to give my perspective today as the Managing Director of Fix Auto Mid Devon. We have a 15,000 square foot body shop in Devon, working for 8 different insurance companies. We're very, very fortunate, and we have a great management team, and also the advantage of being a Fix Auto franchisee. 2020 was going to be a great year for us because we celebrate 50 years in business. And one of our plans originally was to bury a time capsule to open at our centenary celebrations. But we realized we need to be very careful that we don't inadvertently bury the COVID-19 virus to re-release it in 2070. All joking aside, I have for many years considered my role to be that of a juggler, balancing lots of balls in the air at any time and hoping not to drop an expensive one. And it's now a very sobering thought that one of those balls is COVID-19 virus. And if I drop that one, it could be someone's life at risk. So whilst I'm not normally risk averse, I do take this new threat very seriously indeed.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Louise. And congratulations on the anniversary, by the way.
Thank you.
Dean, over to you, if I may.
Yeah, hi, good afternoon, everybody. So I'm Dean Lander, Head of Repair Sector Services at Thatcham Research. My area within Thatcham Research is looking after the repair sector from a point of view of ensuring that our products, services and support are all in place. Particularly, largest part of my area of responsibility would be the academy, so running the training centre, delivering apprenticeships for the market, which is somewhere where we were expecting a year of significant growth. Obviously not expecting to have the academy doors shut at the end of March and not be able to welcome in any delegates. So we've been in a difficult position from a training perspective. The rest of our operations have remained open, successfully supporting the repair sector, and we're now full steam ahead, laser focused on opening academy doors in the next few weeks, but only doing so in the safest possible way.
Great stuff. Thank you very much, Dean. And Paul, over to yourself.
Good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for inviting me along, Mark. Just a little bit about me. I've been in the motor insurance industry in claims for near enough 30 years, rather worryingly when I worked that out earlier. Started my career at Guardian Royal Exchange in Birmingham back in the day. Was there 4 years, then moved to Ecclesiastical for 2 years, and ever since that time I've been at GS in its many guises, so motor claims through and through. I think like most people, for the last kind of 2 to 3 months, trying to get to a place where we take an operation of lots and lots of people working in two offices to working from home, and we managed to achieve that in a 5-week period where 99% of our people are working from home, with a few still working in the office, and the stuff that was done to get us there was incredibly amazing. So that's been my last 2 or 3 months, but really starting to see my time hasn't faltered in terms of work to be done, spending a lot of time now talking about the future, talking about what we're going to do through 21 through to 2023, and that's really pleasing to see. And of course, really delighted that we're able to see that people are back out on the road now. 65 to 70% of normal volumes is probably about where we see it, and I'm pleased to see that our network are started to see that work come into their businesses.
Fantastic. Well, thank you very much, all three of you. Great introductions. Now, what we'll do is, as per usual, we've got lots to get through. Again, in fact, it keeps building week on week, but we've got a little insight into CAPS information. We've got the integral heat map. We've got a little bit of, from the trend tracker survey, the third one in the series, which was released today. And then we've obviously got our usual kind of conversations. So if we just hop back across to the screen share, and we'll just take a little look at the claims analysis report from CAPS. So again, supplied to us from Kevin. If anyone wants to contact Kevin, be added to the distribution list. So the distribution goes out on Mondays. I'm sure he'll happily facilitate that for you. So unique claims, claim that is initiated and seen for the first time as a single count, supply claims transmissions, unique claim plus any additional transmission. So effectively, it gives us a really good insight in terms of, you know, what's starting to be in process out there, an indication of the body shops and the industry springing back to life, if you like. And what we see, so unique claims up to last Friday, so the week up to last Friday, up 14%, and supply chain transmissions up 12%. So we're starting to see, if you like, it's a repeat from a couple of weeks ago where we had that big uplift, and then potentially it kind of settled. Will we see the same again at the tail end of this week? All to be revealed, but that kind of seems to be a little bit of a pattern potentially emerging. Regions showing the increased volume claim activity from previous weeks. So Southeast up by 2.1%, Northwest again another good increase, Greater London springing back to life, and the West Midlands. Here's the 14-day analysis. So again, we've got week ending 29th of May compared to week ending last week, 5th of June. Just gives an indicator of how things are moving, and again based in regions. And then we've got highest to lowest points. So again, we're seeing a good increase, biggest margin of improvement in the Northwest, and then regions recording the highest volumes at the moment, Northwest, Southeast and Scotland. Then we've got the heat mapping from Integral. So Ollie Chambers again, I'm sure Ollie would be happy to talk anyone through these in more depth or more detail. There is the heat map of the UK, darker spots obviously where, if you like, most activity is taking place, but it's certainly the country as a whole is coming back in terms of claims activity out there. So 14% increase in claims from the previous week, 30% increase in claims from April to May. 11% of all the claims appear in the top 10 hotspots, which is 3 regions, and the new growth areas, Guildford, Huddersfield, Staffordshire and Norwich. Postcodes, so the top 6 volumes, RM3, BT12, RH10, DE24, PA3 and EH12. And then these are the new kind of postal area hotspots, PA3, ST1, EH6, GU11, HD2, NR6. So there's lots of information to hand. So it is all indicating the industry, if you like, is moving in the right direction. Just a point on the CAPS information. So a 14% increase. whilst it was the same as 3 weeks ago, it's the volume increase is much larger because it's obviously based on a bigger number anyway. So things are exponentially growing week on week. And it certainly seems to be that way at the moment. The Trend Tracker survey, which, as I say, was published this morning. So everyone hopefully has seen a copy of that. If not, Mark Bull's your man at Trend Tracker. You can download the report free of charge. It's the third in the series. So in partnership with the MBRA and ourselves. 144 responses compared to April 224 and May 178, but very similar business profiles. So we've got some real good comparative data to base things on. And just some real kind of, top line insights, really. There's so much information in there, so many comments. The three panelists have had sight of the reports, and I'm sure we'll drill down into a few more details shortly. But as of 1st of June, is your business fully open? Again, we're at around 97%, of businesses now open in one way, shape or form. Groups are managing their site reopenings accordingly. So not all their sites are reopened, but they're managing that. So therefore, business is back in one way, shape or form. What percentage of projected annual turnover do you forecast your business has lost to date? And again, what we've seen there is a bit of more of a shift from the lower end to the mid-range. So again, a little bit of a concern there. The longer things go on, perhaps, the more obviously concerned people are getting, and the numbers are starting to be reflected there. And again, just a worthy of note there, 94% of body shops surveyed had taken advantage of the furlough scheme. 85%, or just under 85%, had also taken advantage of government-led business support packages. Now, this is one that is kind of really interesting, or certainly is one that has opened lots of eyes. What do you believe is a reasonably justifiable standard charge to apply on a customer estimate invoice for temporary COVID-19 charges per repair? We don't need to really drill down into the commercials as such, but basically the responses ranged from £0 to £400. The mean average figure was £75.50. And again, just to kind of reiterate that, in no way, shape or form is that figure being recommended as the correct sum for either body shops or insurers to accept, but it's just simply presenting what information came through to us. And then just the one final slide from the report. 10 weeks in, and as lockdown eases, how confident are you now that your business can withstand the financial impact of the pandemic? We're looking at 84% retain a good level of confidence, or a level of confidence, and 16% are clearly concerned with what's going on out there at the moment. So real kind of, top line insight. As I say, full report available from Trend Tracker. Whew. Wow, there we go. We'll try not to have too many more PowerPoint slides at it, but we got through it. So if I may, I'll come to you first, Paul. All that information kind of just been thrown out there at you. I know you've had sight of the report, but what are your thoughts really kind of at the moment in terms of where you are as a business, where the industry is?
Yeah. With the last slide about people's confidence of getting through this, one of the biggest problems or challenges we had is how could we make sure that we had a good network still with us at the end of all this. And through that process, we've been constantly talking to our network to understand what's going on, how are they doing, how can we support. I'm obviously encouraged to see claims volumes go up, which is really obviously key to the business. Key to the businesses that we work with, and obviously I'm really pleased to see that going on. I think we're returning to some sort of normal. I think the expectation of what driving patterns might be going forward is really difficult to predict, but there's lots of discussion about lots less traffic on the roads. Internally some work was done around looking at the type of industries we've got across the UK, and it's very easy for an office-based person to say, well, I'm not going to be travelling much to work any longer, but actually what you see is that a lot of the people that we insure across the UK are in industries that can't work from home. So actually I don't think necessarily, personal opinion, I don't think the fall in traffic is going to be as dramatic as it was prescribed at the outset. I think we all saw when it first kicked in very little on the roads. That's definitely not what I'm seeing now, and definitely not what I think will happen going forward. So I think there are promising signs getting back to some sort of normality towards the end of this year, but can't say we're going to get back to 100%. The COVID charge is an interesting one, and I suspect we will get more into that, because it's really for me about understanding what actually is that's required to be done and putting a cost to it. As an insurer, we're just not entirely sure what that looks like yet, and it's not probably presented to us in a way that tells us what that looks like.
Yep. Okay. Yep. We'll drill down on that shortly. Dean, your thoughts in terms of the information we've just shared, and in terms of obviously what Thatcham's experience we're seeing in the industry at the moment. Dean, you are on mute, I think.
There you go. Is that better? Sorry about that.
Better. We can hear you.
I don't think there's anything unexpected in that kind of data. We're expecting to see an increase, and I think our own data is showing very similar levels of recovery week on week. I think over the last 3 weeks, we've kind of seen a 14 to 80%, 18% increase week on week in new methods, request data, etc. through eScribe. What that looks like going forward, I mean, nobody's got the crystal ball. There are reports that I read today about potentially having 1 million more cars on the road during rush hour than pre-COVID times because of the limitations there will be on public transport. If that turns out to be true, then the likelihood of small, light cosmetic type accident damage is likely to increase. And as we know, some of those levels of damage don't reach insurance claims, so it's potentially a retail opportunity if that comes about. But I'm really, like everybody else, I haven't got a crystal ball. We haven't got a historic moment in time to go back to and look at data and say, based on that, that's what the future data is going to look like.
Yep, absolutely. Louise, I'll come to you on your thoughts. And again, something that's been expressed in recent weeks in terms of kind of a milestone for the industry was obviously the return of schools. That's potentially changed in the last few days. Again, does that come into your thinking and general thoughts around, what the numbers we've just looked at there?
Definitely, Mark, and it will, without doubt, be a key indicator when the majority of children are back at school. Locally, we've actually found that a lot of parents have still decided not to send their children back, and this whole question of only certain year groups going back doesn't really help them if you've got 2 or 3 kiddies in your family, because if one goes back, it doesn't help the fact you've still got 2 others there. I think as regards the data you've just shown us, ours would mirror that. We did have a little blip about 10 days ago when unfortunately a local body shop went into receivership and we had to pick up some of their work, which was very unfortunate, and it gave us a momentary blip. But we took the stance that we believe we still need to be very cautious about this recovery. We need to ensure we are maximising furlough arrangements while they're there. We don't want to over-anticipate the speed of this recovery, and certainly a second wave would be disastrous. And to be honest, here in Devon, we haven't even really had a first wave yet. And certainly when the weather was so good a couple of weeks ago, the pictures of people on the beach, and there was no social distancing, and there wasn't weather at the rallies over this last weekend, and it is concerning. We're aware that we need to keep ourselves in a very agile position so that if we need to jump and bring more staff back quickly, we can. But we're trying to reassure the staff that are still on furlough that it doesn't mean they've been forgotten. We're just being cautious, and we feel that's the best way. And somebody gave me a very funny quote the other day from Warren Buffett, which is, you only find out who's swimming naked when the tide goes out. And I think the tide is still receding, and I don't think it's going to be a very pretty sight, to be honest.
Okay. Paul, just on the note of kind of a second wave potential, is it something that you, within kind of your environment, within your insurance world, are very much looking at the moment? Is it a big concern for yourselves?
I think it's a big concern for everybody, isn't it, really? I mean, we're doing, as a business, we're doing what we can, and we're abiding by government guidelines individually, making sure we don't open offices and things like that. I think we're in a very similar position to what Louise described there. Is we just don't know. From a personal opinion, I think the government are making some odd decisions around this, and maybe going a bit too back to things too quick, and people are not listening, which does concern me. But I not being a scientist, I couldn't really say. I think all we can do as an insurer is continue to keep an eye on what's going on, continue to look after the customers that are having claims at the moment, because people still are, as we've discussed. But yeah, it's obviously got a mind's eye on what might happen, but a bit like you said earlier, we're all finding our feet a little bit here, so who knows?
Yeah. Okay. Great stuff. Now let's kind of tackle this COVID charge, if you like, that stemmed from the report, and we kind of briefly touched upon it earlier. Who wants to take the lead with this one? Dean, what's your thoughts?
It's a difficult one, because I'm certainly not qualified to start getting into involved in how much you should charge to clean a car, especially as one side of my brain says, well, you're cleaning the car anyway as a repairer before you give it back to the customer. That's part of the work, but clearly there's some additional aspects and attributes that have to be taken care of here. But cleaning the car is a process, the same as any other process in repair. So if you can define the process, define the materials that need to be used, it shouldn't be too difficult for the industry to come up with some form of commonality. Each insurer will choose how much they're willing to pay from a labour rate point of view, but there should be a common process to follow for cleaning a car. And I think both sides of the industry have an opportunity to come together and kind of really get over this one very, very quickly, because it does sound like a very simple problem to overcome, but it does take some open and an honest dialogue, and avoiding anything that might be seen as inappropriate in the way of trying to negotiate a price point for the entire industry, because you can't do that.
Yeah. And Paul, you kind of alluded to the fact that you almost want kind of evidence, if you like, to support any kind of charge that comes your way. Is that right?
Pretty much so, yeah. Obviously, at the outset, I think there was an initial panic around, well, what should we be doing, and we agreed to a fee. But it's not necessarily been broken down and understood as to what's actually required and what might be required in the future. So as an insurer, you kind of, I can only speak personally from our network's perspective. On the whole, we've not had any major issues. Louise does do work for us. She might have a different view on that, but we've not had any major issues around that. We focused on talking to our repairers and finding out what we can do for them to help. And I do wonder whether a standardisation is always the right way to go anyway. I think we've got to be a little bit careful, because the way our network works, they're all very different about what they charge and how they do their job. And I do wonder whether the standardisation is actually the right way. I'd kind of look at this as we will keep in touch with our network, and we will talk to them about what the challenges and the problems are, and we will try and resolve it with the network. Maybe standardisation isn't the way. Just a thought.
Yeah. Fair comment. And Louise, your thoughts around this, because we sort of mentioned it very briefly earlier today when we just caught up, but it's about the cleaning process or the sanitisation process. It's also about the time involved and kind of almost the hidden elements to this, if you like.
I think I was probably disappointed initially in the sort of knee-jerk reaction that we had from both insurers and repairers, if I'm honest. Clearly there is a need to have an agreed process, and I support what Dean said around that. It shouldn't be very hard, should it? We talked this morning about enterprise have adopted a clean pledge, but basically they're just wiping down surfaces with a disinfectant. Of course, when you dig into it really deeply and you know that it's your staff that are having to carry out these processes, and we have a duty to protect them as well, you do need to dig deeper. And certainly, you know, wiping a car off with antibacterial wipes when COVID-19 is a virus is probably not going to do one jot. And the difficulty we've had is when we've looked at different items of equipment that will do the job for you, nobody can be certain that they are actually effective against COVID-19. So we're all on a steep learning curve here. But we do need, I genuinely believe there is a need for repairers to get together and form a you know, coordinated approach to this, and then go to their various work providers and say, genuinely, this is the cost, the additional cost that we're now facing. Are you prepared to help us meet some of this? And at the end of the day, the nonsense that we've got at the moment, where some will allow us to charge £10 and some will allow us to charge £150, is a nonsense, because we have to adopt the same process, whatever car we're repairing for whatever work provider, because we've got to protect our staff. So we need to very quickly get this nailed, guys, and come to an agreed process with a cost attached to it, so that we can go back to our work providers with that.
Okay. Fantastic, great input all round on that one. Let's move the conversation on. You've mentioned learning, if you like, and I think all three of us have referenced that already. We're learning as we go, bit by bit. What are you continuing to learn from your own operations, your supply chain partners, the wider industry as we go? I suppose, you know, the good, the bad and the ugly, if you like. Louise, I'll come back to you, if I may.
Well, the positive learnings have been, for me, that I have a superb team, and it's taken this pandemic to really make me step out of the business. I'm working from home, and it's made me realise just what a superb team I have down there. Our core values have helped us enormously. Our core values are passion, integrity and respect, and I think a lot of body shops would endorse that. And they've helped us. We refer to our core values all the time, particularly when we're trying to make difficult decisions, and it helps us enormously to do that. So that's been very reassuring for me, and I've realised that at my ripe old age, I can probably accelerate my retirement now as well, because the team are taking over and coping very, very competently, which is superb. The negative learnings, well, there was the whole fiasco around the parts supply chain, which just literally crumbled overnight, was incredibly disappointing. We've got some suppliers that were just abysmal, just locked up shop overnight, never came back for weeks and weeks, never contacted us. So we've learned a lot from that, and there are several what we believed before were key supply partners that we will never go back and do business with again. On the positive side, some were excellent, and we formed new relationships now with other parts suppliers, some of whom are in Bristol, so we're going further afield. They've been absolutely brilliant and stepped up enormously to help us. And I suppose it's just shown that, you know, as an industry, we need to communicate better with all our supply chain, whether that be an insurer to their repairers or us to, you know, our supply chain. We need to get our relationships better so that that wouldn't happen again.
Okay, great stuff, Paul. I'll pose the same question to yourself, really, the learnings from your side.
For internally, I mean, our team have been incredible, both from my leadership team, but also down to the individual people that do the real hard work at the coalface. Incredible, adapting to this change over a very, very short period, and still delivering what we expect them to deliver has been something I will be forever proud of. And it's in times like this when people really stand up and be counted, and they have, and I've been very impressed. I think communication, I think things like Zoom, things like doing things, a brief conversation with Dean earlier around how much more he's getting out of engagement from the members of Thatcham via voice or via video as opposed to attendance. I think we should all learn from that, because maybe we can't all afford a day to go and do something, but we can afford an hour here and there, and I think that's a testament to that. I think for me, what I've learned is over the years we've worked very hard on building a network that will work with us, and they've done us absolutely proud for a period of time where it could have been absolute turmoil. And we made the decision very early on that we weren't going to mandate any opening, any closing. We were going to leave that to the decision of the particular business to decide whether or not it was appropriate for them financially and for the safety of their staff to open or close. So we didn't mandate anything, and we had a mix of both, and both of those answers were the right answer, because they did what they thought was right for their business. What I found during that period, though, is even those repairers that were kind of saying to us they were shut, every time that they were open for instructions, new instructions, and every time they got a key worker, they were beavering away at doing that stuff without us even knowing. And the amount of stories I've had of key workers who've told us what a fantastic job the Solution Centre network has done for us has been incredible. So I've learned that you have to look at ways of running your business differently. I've learned that people adapt very quickly, and I've learned that investment in a network pays you back in spades when push really comes to shove, and I'm incredibly proud of all of that.
Oh, that's great to hear. Real positive stuff there. Thanks for that, Paul. And Dean, you've obviously moved quickly. You're doing your own kind of technical webinars and pieces now, and Paul's already referred to kind of the audience you're now exposed to or have been opened up to.
Yeah, I think from a Thatcham research point of view, we've got quite a divergent business. So we've got certain operations that are physical and require people to be in there to work. In the Repair Technology Centre, to do research on vehicles to develop repair processes, you need to be able to take the car apart. You need people there to be able to do that. Our training business was brought to an abrupt end for the vast majority of it in March. We have one of the things to highlight really is the massive success we've had with keeping apprentices on programme during that time. 90, I think that the last count for the end of May, 92% of our total apprentices had still completed learning in May, while we estimated about 35% of those apprentices were furloughed, and another 30% plus were on very limited hours of work. So I think we've learned a lot there, and a lot that we've learned there we need to sustain and keep up. We've managed to keep touch with those apprentices. We've put more and more of the learning opportunities onto our digital academy platform, and we've really been successful in developing virtual classrooms. And I think that's something, for the sake of our customer base, we should try to retain some of, and try to reduce the amount of time we take apprentices out of their businesses. For everything else, I guess a significant proportion of Thatcham do work and were able to work remotely very, very quickly. So we were quite fortunate in the fact that we were kind of testing out our business continuity plan in preparation for a government announcement on the day the government announcement came out. So we kind of, you're at home, you're all logged in, you can stay there. And I think we've been really, really successful. And I think the one thing that comes out of this is what a great team of people we got working at Thatcher, and what a great team of people we engage with across all the industry, insurers, repairers, supply chain. I think the amount of support everybody shows for everybody else has been absolutely fantastic. And hopefully, we don't all, I said earlier, I hope we don't all go running for the bridge to go back to comfort zone when all of this is done. Let's burn some of those bridges. Let's learn the positives that have come out of this, and let's keep those. And let's see what we can do better in the future when everything's back to whatever that new normal looks like.
Well, that's great messaging, great message. Louise, I'll come across to you. So kind of right now, within your own business, within the industry, what are kind of the key challenges that you're facing? We've referenced several times over the past few weeks, kind of, timelines or critical milestones within the business. None of us have got a crystal ball to see where this is heading. We've already referenced the schools potentially, not reopening or being left to their own devices to decide. Where are you where are your sights set at the moment?
I guess our key challenges for the next 2 weeks are, how do we get more technicians back to work whilst still ensuring they maintain the social distancing? And that is proving quite difficult. We've got a reasonable amount of WIP waiting to come in. And we're always fearful that if insurers see that mounting and think we're not reacting quickly enough to it, will they send that work somewhere else instead? So we're constantly trying to balance the needs, but keep work in reserve as well, just in case we have another downturn. How do we bring technicians back and work effectively when the current business model that we're all working to requires us to have technicians at 120% efficiency? We can't work to that model anymore. So our next challenge is, what do we want the new model to look like, and how do we persuade people to move to that model with us? And also, preventing complacency in the workplace is going to be a very important one, because I think the staff get comfortable with only a few of them in there. Do they start to then get a bit lazy and forget to wash their hands regularly? I don't know. That's one of my fears, that we've got to keep banging that drum and make sure that they are maintaining social distancing and keeping that virus at bay. Other key learnings: how do we encourage meaningful dialogue? I don't believe it is the insurer's duty to rescue body shops from this crisis. It's our duty to save ourselves and hopefully form some good relationships on the way. We're masters of our own businesses. We're independent, and it's up to us to set out our stall for what we believe to be the new future, whatever that might be. So yeah, there's a lot of current challenges, but the very immediate one is, I've got 3 more technicians coming back in next week. I've got to integrate them with the 6 that have already been there, make sure that they observe all those rules and keep us trading safely.
Mark, I don't know if I could come in there actually, sorry to interrupt. Just picking up, and probably a comment direct to Louise, because she does do work for us. I think it's really important, I'll talk for Ageas, that we maintain that patience to get people to that point that Louise is talking about. So the first point she made around that balance of work, we're very aware that 100% of our network is now open, but we're very aware that they're not all open fully, and the repairers are balancing furloughing staff and keeping that work coming through. But also the fact that physical, even if you wanted everybody to come back to work, the physical ability to get people working in the same workshop at the same time is going to be really hard. we as insurers have a duty to our customers, but we also have a duty to the safety of our own staff and indeed the repairers' staff. So we need to make sure that we do not lose patience. We don't look at that and look at works in progress. Obviously, it has to be under control, and there's a difference between under control and being out of control. If it's under control, the discussions just need to be that we're going to help you through this, and we're going to help you get out the other end of this the best we can. Louise has made the point there that she's not relying on an insurer to help save the business, but we can do everything we possibly can within our own remit to help. And I think that's really key. One of the things that was mentioned in the report that you sent to us yesterday, Mark, was the lots of postcodes changing and not changing back. That's not where we are. Now, there is, as I say, this is about constant dialogue. It's about understanding what position each repairer is in and helping deal with each repairer. And we will not tar people with the same brush, and we will understand the individual circumstances, especially when you put some of those heat maps up and some repairers will be in a better place than others. We have to remain patient and balance the customer requirement, because by and large, our customers have been brilliant through this process. I have to say, they've understood, they can see it, they can feel it, they've understood, and they continue to understand. And that's our promise to you, Louise, and anybody else from our network. Is just we will work with you to make this happen, make this work. So please keep talking to us.
Great stuff. Thanks for that, Paul. And in terms of claims coming through, are you kind of managing, triaging them differently in any way, shape, or form? You're trying to keep drivables out there for as long as possible so that you can make this balance between work that's coming in. How's that from an operational point of view?
Is that for me or Louise?
Yeah, sorry, for yourself, Paul. Yeah.
Yeah, we're not triaging. Again, our network has basically kept their doors open in terms of instructions. And what we agreed at the outset was we would leave each repairer to have conversations with the customer and make those decisions. Absolutely, at the very beginning, it was a case of priority key workers, then non-drivables, and then if there's a bit of walking wounded out there and people can worry about the scrape on their car, that's absolutely fine. But I reiterate, we didn't mandate that. This is around doing the best thing. The best person to know what the customer wants is when the solution centre picks up the phone to the customer and just has a general chat, which they've been doing brilliantly well, and saying, okay, how are you feeling? Where's your work? What do you do? How can I help? When's best for you? And what I'm also finding is there's a lot of customers, some of this work in progress is customers not wanting to come out and get their vehicle repaired. It's not just about the capacity of the repairer. So there's a lot of customers still saying, well, until the government say it's okay for me to do this. And interestingly enough, just the point I was going to make earlier is obviously next week retail shops are going to be open. I think that is probably as big or as important as the stuff around the schools, because I think that might make people think differently about what they can and can't do. Great stuff.
Brilliant. Dean, I'll come across to you. So, obviously similar challenges, different scales, different kind of areas that you're looking at. But one of the things, are we at risk of being distracted by all of this? Before we went into this huge skills crisis across the industry, training, EV vehicles, ADAS, all these kind of things was really coming to the fore, and we seem to be adopting it as an industry gradually. But are we kind of at risk of almost having our attentions diverted away from this too much? Is 3, 4, 5, 6 months, a long time to be ignoring these things?
It's easy for me to say we. I think the repair and insurance industry are, and quite rightly, distracted by this. But I think there is a real danger that as we recover, as Louise is talking about having staff come back, as the industry recovers, we're going to find if we not laser focused on it now, we're going to find that the skills crisis that we've all been talking about for many, many years has just deepened. It's absolutely clear some people might choose not to return to work. And if we don't have enough talent in the pipeline to cope with just the expected churn from the industry, I think any downsizing, and specifically I'll mention apprentices, if we have any downsizing in the apprenticeship, which has happened year on year in the last 3 years, the apprentice number have serious, it will have serious and significant long-term effects. I mean, nobody can really say that that's not the case. And if we if we do take our eye off that ball right now, and as volumes return and we have this commented ageing workforce, undoubtedly there are going to be some of them that kind of go, actually, do you know what, I've got enough money in the bank, I don't really need to come back to work, and I've just experienced 10, 12 weeks off work, and actually I quite liked it. So for me, I think the need for upskilling is something that we can't just put on hold. We can't press the pause button because COVID is more important. We have to make sure that the tech boom that is there in the automotive industry can be dealt with by the repair sector. Otherwise, all the capacity arguments and conversations that are happening will just, crumble over a short number of years, because more people will leave, less people will come in, and repairs are getting more complex. We can see repair costs are going up. The cost of parts is going up. The average time to repair a car is going up. So I think, there's a major challenge if we don't stay laser focused on the fact that the industry's got a skills crisis, and we need to continue to try and work together to fix that.
Mark, can I just ask Dean a question there, following on from that, around BS 10125, because I know, Dean, you're on the SVS 20 committee. And one of my frustrations as a body shop owner is that standard, which was fantastic when it first came out as PAS 125, but it hasn't moved with the times. And as a body shop owner, I'm now finding that my training budget is being taken up sending technicians, skilled technicians who've been in the trade for many, many years, and they're being asked to go and recertify to outdated qualifications, when actually I need to be using that training budget to upskill them. Can you give me any sign that we might be on the brink of improving that standard and pushing it forwards and updating it?
Yes, I can. And excuse me if I try to pick my words carefully here, because I can't speak on behalf of the IMI, and I can't speak on behalf of BSI either. But I can speak on behalf of the committee, the SVS 20 committee, and some other committees and things that I work on around the industry. So, first point, and it's probably a bit of an exclusive, and I'll probably get in trouble for saying it, but we have now got, we've now put a business case through with BSI for the revision of BS 10125. And I think the last time we spoke, Louise, it was actually at an ARC360 event when we were actually allowed to get face to face and actually shake hands and talk to each other. And I said at that event, we didn't want to act too soon, because if we acted too soon, the standard would get out of date too quickly again, and we needed to put some major steps in play to make it viable, make it work. I believe those steps are in place. I've worked with some members of the committee in drafting a business case, and late last week that business case got approved through the necessary governance within BSI. So it will be revised. It's not a small revision either. In the business case, we clearly outlined that it was a significant revision that was required, that needed to look at man, method, machine and materials, all the core cornerstones that built the standard in the first place. With regard to training, one of the aspects that the whole committee is really absolutely determined to resolve is making continuous professional development a recognised method to keep the skills and competence up to date, rather than just retesting. So that will be in there. But again, I don't want to talk about specific products, because the accreditation route is an IMI product. The NVQ route is a City and Guilds product. People choose different products, horses for courses. and I don't want to speak to their products, but you should, and every business should be looking at its training budget and investing in upskilling their team rather than re-qualifying consistent skills that have been retained in there for a long time, and the whole committee is committed to that.
Brilliant. Thank you, Dean. Louise, you stole my next question as well, so well done. Right, I'm very conscious of time. We've kind of got just under 10 minutes remaining. So, Louise, will things ever be the same again?
No, and to be honest, I hope they're not. Running a body shop is a damned hard job. And I'd like to think that we can, through this, emerge stronger. I don't want to say it's going to be the survival of the fittest, because that implies that there's going to be ones that don't survive. But yeah, we need to find ways now of making things better, not just for ourselves, but for the insurers. To pull one of Paul's quotes, it's the right repair at the right cost. This isn't going to be an open checkbook that we can go out and be greedy and double our charges, because somebody's got to pay for it at the end of the line. But we have to use this as a positive turning point and emerge stronger.
Great. And Paul, coming across, you referenced at the outset 2021 to 2023. Again, it's kind of tying in with that question: will things ever be the same again? Are you looking at that window where things may return to normality?
That's more of our current strategy within Ageas, really, and we're not taking our focus on maintaining an excellent service for our customers and having a supply chain that can operate successfully. So that doesn't change. I think we have to keep sharp focus on that. 100% agree with Louise. I don't think it'll be the same again, but I think that can be a good thing. And I think we need to learn from some of this stuff. We've worked with lots of repairers over the time who have changed, who have looked at the way in which they make their business more efficient. And it's those repairers that will come through this and will come through this really, really well. Accidents are still going to happen. To what extent, we don't know. As I said at the outset, I don't think it's quite going to be as dramatic as everybody thinks it is. That's a personal view. But there's still going to be people that are going to require their cars to be repaired for a long time yet. So it's still going to happen. I think our approach will be, as it's always been, is we will continue to ask our networks to make decisions that are right for their businesses and try not to mandate stuff that doesn't help them make money and survive. And that's what we've always strived to do. And you're absolutely right. We're an insurance company. We don't have, as much as countries, what people say, we don't have bottomless pockets. We have to make sure we remain competitive in order to sell a product to our customer at the right price. So our job is to make sure we protect our indemnity spend as well as our customers. So I guess the thing for me is, I'd encourage that everybody make sure they look at the relationship with their network as a one-on-one relationship, rather than mandating something that works for one repairer but doesn't work with the other. And we find that whilst that sometimes it's harder to do that, because you can't just mandate a labour hour, it's actually harder to do this. But thankfully I've got a kind of supplier manager in Rob Budd that goes out there and spreads the good word about difference is good. And we're just trying to find the best and learning from each other. So I don't think things will be the same again. I do think that we're still going to have cars to repairs, and we're getting back to that point where it's a little bit more realistic. But we're going to work with our network to do what we can to get through this together. And that's a message that we continually hopefully share. And once again, I encourage anybody that's on this call from our network, if there's concerns, then you talk to us and we will talk to you and discuss how we can overcome it together.
Brilliant. Thanks very much, Paul. And Dean, you've already kind of alluded to the fact that, some of what you used to do, you're kind of keen to potentially leave behind and do things differently. So same from a Thatcham perspective.
Yeah, absolutely the same. I think specifically within our training environment, I think we've found new ways of delivering training that's really beneficial to the industry and we need to try and adapt some of those technological advances in training capability to reduce the cost burden for body shops. We know the burden. We know all the things about, you have to pay for the training, then you have to pay to get somebody to go to the training, etc. So there are ways we can do that. But for me, the essence is we can all focus on the bad things and the negative things that this current circumstances have brought about to our plate. And I don't blame anybody for doing that. But I prefer to look at it a different way. And my way of looking at it is that over the last 10 to 12 weeks, we've learned so many different things and different ways to do stuff. My focus over the next 10 to 12 weeks will be able to retain those good things and not go back to the bad things.
Great stuff. Brilliant. One last thought, Louise, very, very quickly. Your key priority over the next 7 days?
It will be deciphering the government guidelines on furlough when they're announced on Friday, so that we can interpret those quickly. We've been modelling various scenarios as to what might happen with the part-time situation. We've got different staff rotas pinned on the walls all around me, trying to work out how we can best get as many staff back as we can.
Brilliant. All right, guys, going to bring that to a close. So very conscious of time. People have got lots to do. Some great messages coming in the chat. So thank you all very, very much for those comments. Huge thank you to yourself, Paul, to you, Louise, and to you, Dean. Really, really insightful, great conversation once again. Really appreciate it. Thank you to everybody for tuning in and joining us. Again, remember the Motor Claims Festival, 29th of June for that week. And also this recording of the webinar will be live on the website either later today or first thing tomorrow. And it'll also be reproduced as a podcast. So when you're, mowing the lawn or walking around the garden anti-clockwise for a change, you can listen to it all again then. But thanks everybody for joining us. Really appreciate it. Have a fantastic week and we'll see you next Wednesday. Take care.
Thank you.
Cheers.
Thanks. Bye.